I sure hope it works. And the sound is great. So, yeah, I mean, I still need to decide what I'm going to talk about. I mean, it's not that I'm not used to talking to myself or talking out loud with myself. But regardless, that's, there's you there, right? There's somebody listening and somebody perhaps following the train of thought. So it helps if I structure it a bit more, or if I think about it. This coffee is really good. Really, really good. And there's something nice about not starting the day with coffee straight away, just waiting like 2-3 hours to actually drink it. And yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, obviously your body naturally wakes up without it first, and by then you're kind of already awake and your energy is going, and then coffee is then just a nice addition, as opposed to like waking up feeling tired and then jacking your nervous system with this beverage, caffeine. So, but another thing that I've noticed is I really love coffee on days when I sleep a lot of hours. Like if I sleep for more than 8, it's like 9, 10, or even 11 hours, then coffee is like, and I'm almost like drowsy because I slept too much. Like coffee is a great way to sort of just activate the nervous system, but I already have enough energy in the body after the sleep, as opposed to compensating for the lack of sleep, right? Like if I had 6 or 7 hours of sleep and then, or less, and then I drink the coffee. I mean, 7, 6 can still work sometimes. It depends on the quality of the sleep and everything else. But generally, like I feel like I need at least 7, ideally somewhere around 8. So yeah, I'm going to take you through the process of how I decide to even what to talk about. I mean, some people ask me how I make my YouTube videos and are they scripted or not, and the reality is I have different videos and I've tried different formats. They're never like fully scripted. I've never like done a video that I just fully read out everything. I really hate that. And I get bored, and I don't mind reading a passage from a book. I don't mind reading quotes or poems, but having a script there is like, yeah, I don't know. There's something about just random thoughts that just appear sometimes that can carry a lot of weight and meaning, and they're very interesting to incorporate. So I think in the minimum, I would like, if I was to use a script, I would only use it like half of the time. But the most kind of scripted I ever did my videos was I used like a kind of bullet point structure. So I knew the topic that I was going to talk about, and then I already thought about the opening, so the first opening sentences. And that was somewhat scripted because, of course, it matters, right? Like if the first words that I say kind of help people decide whether they want to stay and continue watching or not. So, I did put a lot of intention into that. But for the rest, I just had a few points that I flowed through. And then I brought in additional things that just came up. But it was useful because it also gave me the structure to kind of follow and didn't have to sort of just get stuck in rabbit holes, right, and not know how to get out. So yeah, and some videos are just completely unscripted, like, and I don't even think in advance what I'm going to say, and this is one of them. I mean, I've been having topics circulating in my mind for weeks now, and it's been a while since I posted my last video. So I'm sure some of them will come up, but I don't necessarily know, or don't have like, okay, this is one specific message that I want to deliver. I have an overarching theme, which I'll touch on, but really I think it'll just be a rich conversation with myself, I guess, in this way, but hopefully also with you in comments, and in other forms, whether you're in my community or we chat elsewhere. And so some thoughts that I have is, first of all, I want to be changing my format of videos, because I've been talking a lot about building a guidance business, guidance work, and I think that's great. And it's a pretty rich topic. There's so much to cover there. But I do miss also just talking about other things like creativity, like art, like state of affairs, like how to live a good life, health, or what I'm even just musing and philosophizing on, travel, where to live, different kind of ways to approach decisions in life. So, yeah, and I want to bring more of that in. So a bit more of just what I would love to listen to myself. And so I will continue to talk about guidance work and building a guidance business, but this will kind of, not be the main topic necessarily, right? It might just be one of the pillars or one of the themes that I'll be touching on. So yeah, how do I decide what we're going to talk about? I mean, I like to sometimes sit down with a journal and just jot down a few ideas, maybe a few topics. Like today with you, perhaps like what I feel like sharing is just, what I'm present with. Because I think so many of us, we can get so fixated on what's external, and obviously not pay attention to also what's happening on the inside. But also in communication with others, right? Like with you, I might talk about, news events out there or all the horrible things happening. But I think there's a certain depth if I add myself into it, or like I share how I feel about it, what's coming up for me internally, how I'm processing that, what's challenging for me, what ideas I have, and so on and so forth. So that's really my intention, just to kind of share what I'm present with, but also reveal more of my own internal process and inner world. And that's something that I've noticed was, worked really well in my newsletters that I used to write on Kit. Now I do it on Substack, and now they're called Letters from Within. And, it's not like necessarily always finding the best ideas out there or, saying something really clever. Sometimes it's just really sharing the truth of the moment. That can really shift something for people or inspire them or make them curious, and I always underestimated that. I thought like, well, my internal world is just my mess that I put into my journaling. I mean, I'm sure maybe some people would be interested in hearing, but not many. But actually, it tends to resonate. So anyway, I feel like sharing what I'm present with today. Then if that comes up, I also want to touch on just, where we are in the world right now, because I feel like there's a lot of things happening from, obviously AI and technology development to geopolitical stuff, right? Like wars and climate things and I don't necessarily have like one point of view that I want to impart on you, but just maybe share my own internal process and own view on what's happening, and then there's some other things. I mean, where I am in my business, right? Like my business has been growing steadily over the last few months, and I'm super grateful because I was just thinking that 2 years ago I was in a completely different situation. Like I was in Sicily with my partner, my love Chiara, who's also here with me, and I was desperate because I thought that I had to go back to an old job to make a living, or like find a new job that I didn't want to do, and it only hit me that like, all right, like let me try to make this business work, which was a guidance business in the end. I didn't have that name for it yet. I called it Wisdom Project, and see where it takes me. Just experiment. And okay, if it doesn't work out, screw it. I'll go get a job. So that was a really pivotal moment. It was actually like 1st of August or around then. Right now it's July 10th or 9th. Yeah, the 9th. So anyway, we'll touch on that perhaps. And yeah, but also where am I going? Because I've been doing a lot of different things in my business. I mean, mainly, of course, growing my own transpersonal brand, growing on social media. I started on X, then went on to, I don't remember in which order, but roughly like Threads, Instagram, YouTube, and now I've been growing on all of them. And I'm kind of shifting priorities, what I'm focusing on more. Like, for instance, now Instagram feels more exciting, but also more, I feel like it's offering more opportunities than X, for instance, even though I still enjoy X for certain things. So I'm kind of thinking differently about it. But also similarly in terms of my offers, I had the one-to-one work that was kind of the foundation, then doing group work, then doing cohort, then doing community, selling a few low-ticket products, and now the 3R guidance business, which has been the kind of the main product that I've been scaling over the last few months, and it's been a tremendous success for myself, but also for the people that have been taking it, and for the community of people that's inside. And with that, I'm feeling a renewed energy of wanting to create new things. Also because there's just so many possibilities. So anyway, that's a footnote, right? Like, we might talk about this, we might not. And then, with this is kind of related, is to talk about art and to talk about creative work and creating. Because for me, somehow, I derive a lot of meaning in creating beauty. And I know beauty is a charged word, like that can almost sound, I don't want to say pretentious or shallow perhaps, but just creating something beautiful that moves. It doesn't have to be beautiful in the sense of like fashion cover magazine. It can be just the way the light is falling on the dead rose outside of my flat, and kind of capturing that. So really seeing the beauty in this life and everyday life, and I'm feeling this renewed inspiration to create more of that and to share more of that, and just create beautiful things that could also be useful. So it might also be products, not just kind of art for the sake of art. So, and how that might or will fit into my direction with the business also. So. Yeah, these are kind of the main things, and then there's a lot of topics that I'm philosophizing on, from money to shadows to just like what is the metaphysical play that we're experiencing in this world and in this life. So perhaps I'll just share what I'm present with, and then if there's other things that come up, we can dive into them. So. Right now I'm in Mexico, in the south of Mexico, and we have been here for a few months and plan to stay for a little longer, and then we're kind of deciding where we're going next. It's always a big conversation, I think, with my partner, with my love, Chiara, and I. It's always just thinking like, okay, where do we go from here, but also like, where do we want to settle? And at times I find the world unsettling, right? Because it's funny that, those two words are connected, of course. And so, at least in my mind, and I'm sure there's, layers of fear there and layers of uncertainty, it makes it hard to decide where to live. And of course, there's other things too, right? Like being a nomad for 4 years, I just feel spoiled at this point in terms of, having experienced so many different places that it's hard to just pick one that, ticks all the boxes. So but for now we're here in Mexico, and we might come back to Europe in September. We'll see. And if you're watching this later, now you know where we ended up. It's been really beautiful to be here. I mean, Mexico is a really special country. And I've really enjoyed my time here, and this is my second time here. I have noticed, though, like 3 years before, it was, already there were tourists, digital nomads, but I really feel in these last 3 years it has exploded. But that seems to be a trend in a lot of places, obviously the same in Bali, just, it's becoming like overly crowded almost. Portugal, where we were, is also so there's almost like this really rapid gentrification of places, especially like in the more kind of southern climates, right? Because people are kind of more drawn to this lifestyle of, you know, the beach or, you know, just at least the sun. And yeah, so that's noticeable and that's considerable. Like there are protests in Mexico City now against gentrification, and I think it's one of the problems. I think there are more for sure, but I definitely feel that as a traveler, right? Like to what extent am I really welcome, or to what extent am I harming the economy or affecting it? And of course I can say, well, you know, the rules are fair enough, right? I'm allowed to be here, but you know, more from, I guess, an ethical, energetic perspective, is it really fair enough, right? So, but I must say, like, Mexican people are absolutely lovely, and it's a very spiritual country, which I really enjoy, to be honest. Like, I went to a gym class, you know, and the teacher or the coach at the end, she pulls out like oracle cards, and, you know, it's just, you know, take an oracle card and get your reading for today. And it's very normal here, right? There's so many shops that have like esoteric objects, or and obviously there's indigenous tradition, but you know, people are also Catholic, and I don't really find that in many other places. I mean, in Peru in a different way, of course, in India in a different way, and of course people will be spiritual in their own ways, but obviously compared to Europe, it's a very different feeling. So yeah, and I've kind of felt at ease here, I would say, and definitely more in quieter places than in the big cities, like Mexico City, or even here in Oaxaca is like, can be a bit hectic at times. But when we were in smaller places like Mazunte or in the mountains near San Jose del Pacifico, it's very relaxed, it's very chill, and even if maybe I feel like there's sometimes like over a longer time I might miss some things that I might find in a city. In the end, I feel it does me good to be in those places. So things like that, just kind of putting myself in different situations, makes me understand, you know, what kind of environment I wanted to live in, and at the same time, like, yeah, it's you know, you want to have that balance, right? Or at least for me, is like to be close to a city, but also to be in nature. So yeah, and to be honest, like, we decided to come here because we were in Portugal for a year and we were living very remotely, and we were missing a bit of like the traveling, the buzz, and while at the same time feeling kind of burnt out from travel. So we decided, okay, let's just go to Mexico, but let's be really slow, like book places for months, and that's more or less what we did. And the nomad fatigue is still there, I might say. Like, I feel after 4.5 years now, it's getting a little bit tiring, and it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't feel as exciting anymore, right? Because there's so many waterfalls that you can see, there's so many cafes that you can go to, right? Eventually the novelty kind of wears off, and of course you can keep going to new places, or to go on the other side of the world where the culture is really different, but still I feel like you start to become immune to it in a way. So for me, I feel that, you know, it's definitely coming to a time where I really want to settle down in one place, and I've shared in some previous videos of, you know, the dark side of being a digital nomad, and also just musings on this lifestyle. But the decision, like, to decide where to live is not so easy, and you know, of course there could be many factors there, and I know also that I'm not the only one that struggles with it. But yeah, there's many different places in the world, and on the one side, I'm incredibly grateful that I have this opportunity, that I built this business online. I can take it anywhere, I can work from anywhere, but at the same time, there's so many options, right? And what to choose. But also at the same time, the world is changing, right? Some places are just either becoming too gentrified, and it's almost like it feels kind of almost wrong to move there somehow. Even if, of course, it's like, again, it's like fair enough, but or some places are just becoming way too expensive, or there's the climate. Also, some places are really having intense heat waves that, there's theories, whether you want to call them conspiracy theories or not, that, weather can also be manipulated or is being manipulated, and but I do feel that, it's hotter in Europe in the summer. That's just feels like truth to me in my experience, wherever that's coming from. So yeah, and in that sense, I'm really excited to build a home somewhere, but places keep changing, and I do think like the short list for us for now at least is probably Spain, most likely, and potentially Portugal, and some ways we like the idea of Costa Rica. And then, as other options, it could be other parts of Europe, like southern Switzerland or Greece, or even Italy, but more likely Sardinia. So we shall see, right? But what I know for sure is that, what matters for me is to be in a place where I can get plenty of sun, right? And because I do believe in the healing energy of sun, and I grew up in, the Nordics and in kind of really cold climates mostly, and also in the kind of more Atlantic places like London and Brussels, where it's very humid, rains a lot, it's gray, and I feel like the sun does me a lot of good on all levels. So that's one kind of non-negotiable. I'd say at least 2,000 hours per year. So that tends to be, of course, Southern Europe or most of Latin America, and yeah, a lot of places in Asia and Africa too. So depends where. And yeah, but at the same time, there's many other kind of factors, right? I think like we're looking for a place that can have the balance of, being next to a city or a town where we can still go, for our practical things, but, live in nature where we can really just, relax, because I feel it's harder when you're in a town or in a city. Of course, in a smaller place, maybe it's better, but I'm so done with living in a city, or especially in an apartment block. Like, I feel like living in a house with some land or a garden is incredibly beautiful, and like the things you can do with it. So yeah, I won't bore you with all our criteria and all our thoughts, but then it's of course community, like creatives, entrepreneurial, maybe conscious people, and yeah, just beautiful nature around, like mountains, hikes, and yeah, some kind of culture. Like we are aesthetes at the end of the day, and we do enjoy things like beautiful historical architecture and art and design, and so I do miss that sometimes when I'm like completely in like a more wild place that doesn't have as much of this heritage, and that's just me, right? Some people can thrive in it, but for me, for instance, like being somewhere like Costa Rica, like I might miss that, or like I'll need my trips to places like at least Mexico or back to Europe to kind of experience more of that. Not that it doesn't exist in Costa Rica, it's just less. And yeah, so I mean, my biggest concern with probably moving to Europe is just that I do feel over time there's more and more government intervention, and maybe that's my perception, maybe that's the perception of the people I'm with, so that could be like kind of a bubble perspective. Of course, people that live very much in the society and the system that might think differently, and I'm open to all ideas, and I'm totally open to being wrong about it. But I do feel that there's kind of more and more almost like control, right? Whether it's through the media or through the online space, or even through controlling the financial transactions, and I just don't know if the government always has the best interest, or our best interest, let's say. So there's a little bit of that. I think Spain, Portugal are better than a lot of other parts of Europe. For instance, now Europe is increasing the military spending. And there's different reasons for that. I think on the surface, of course, that there's potential threat coming from the east side, but of course, defense companies can make more money, and who knows, maybe at some point they will want to use those weapons for their own kind of military action. Who knows? And at the same time, Spain and Portugal, for instance, they're spending less, right? So they're not increasing their spending, or at least not as much as some other countries. And of course, like geographically also, they're kind of more tucked away. Like there's, they're bordering France, there's Morocco, and then there is, the United States across the ocean. So, and they don't seem to be at any tension with any of them, right? I mean, with Morocco, maybe there's a bit of like territory that's, I don't know if it's contested, but technically Spain has like a small little bit on the Moroccan land. So, but they seem to be on friendly terms, more or less. So, yeah, and in that sense, and also Spain recognized Palestine and as an independent state, and to me, again, I don't like getting very political or taking strong political stances, but I personally do feel that what's happening in Gaza is just wrong and utterly disgusting and really inhumane, and I think of course in the mainstream that's being very normalized in many ways, but there's nothing normal about it, and of course because the existing power structures that are in place, because they have decided to do so, they're just kind of going ahead with it, and there's almost no one that can, or nobody that is stopping them. So, and I think for whatever reason that I didn't look into it, maybe there's some kind of selfish interest or incentive for Spain to recognize it as an independent state. But if it was just at least a moral and kind of idealistic decision, then I really respect that. And a lot of other countries just don't. And they do it not because they don't support Palestine, or not because they are for what's happening there, but yeah, regardless of that, is to me is just another signal that I appreciate about like a country like Spain, as opposed to somewhere like the UK or the United States or Germany, that don't recognize Palestine, that finance the weapons and directly finance this crime, essentially, right? This act. So anyway, I don't want to get too political here, but I said we might touch on the world affairs, and that's one aspect that kind of is coming up here. And so I personally prefer places that are more libertarian, more free, and where there is less kind of government intervention. And also you can look at what happened during COVID time as a kind of proxy, how certain countries responded. And of course, Spain, Portugal, depends where, but they were kind of, more Spain than Portugal, they were stricter compared to somewhere like Costa Rica, right? So, or in some ways New Zealand. When there were cases, everything got locked down. But when there were no registered cases, they just kept everything open. So anyway, that's a proxy. I don't think there's kind of complete freedom in any of the countries, and I think a lot of freedom that matters is of course internal also, but it's true that practically speaking in some countries there is more of this oppression or kind of this influence to deal with than others, right? In terms of bureaucracy, in terms of reporting stuff, in terms of paying taxes, in terms of, abiding by the rules and things like that. So that's my view. But of course, that's just my perspective. So we'll see. I don't want to make predictions about the world, but, it's not, even if you look at Spain and Portugal, it's not that long ago that they had dictatorship, right? I think in Portugal it ended even more recently than in Spain, and I feel that's still reflected in the mentality of people. And who knows? Like, history works in cycles, so things could always come back. So anyway, that's my perspective. But we're kind of always thinking about the world and what's happening, and I think there's a balance there, right? Of being informed about what's there, and obviously also recognizing that we might not know the full truth, or like the truth to the full extent, because of course there's just the media, that's what we see, and we might hear from people in Gaza, for instance. We might hear from the media, but we don't know necessarily what's happening in the heads of people that are deciding to do these things, or what their next steps are, or what kind of chess game they're playing, right? Because of course they're thinking about it, very strategically, with a few steps ahead. So, pardon the barking dog, I don't know if you can hear it. I'm going to process the audio. But yeah, so we don't necessarily know to the full extent what's happening, but at the same time, I do feel that obviously we can feel inside, right? Again, if we get in touch with our intuition, our bodies, we can feel inside what feels right and what doesn't, right? What feels kind of off and what feels right, because in the media or the governments, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of saying, but you kind of need to follow where the actions are, where the money is going, rather than what the official statement is, because that shows and tells a lot more than just what the kind of narrative is. So that's kind of one aspect. But yeah, and we cannot necessarily know, and I feel it's not always that we even need to know everything, right? Because I think, at least for me, sometimes there is that need to know, and whether it's to feel safe, whether it's curiosity, whether it's just informing myself, but sometimes that can be a bit endless, because again, there's so many things to know, but also I don't know if I can necessarily know everything, and at the same time it's like, well, the most important is this life that I'm living, right, in this immediate moment, right, and my immediate surroundings. And it's not to say that I need to live in this tunnel vision and kind of be blind to the world and everything else, but I do feel there's something unhealthy about just going on the phone or on the computer and then reading some news and letting that occupy my mental state, and then being taken out of the moment here, or even thinking about my own life and long-term plans, and being busy with worrying about that, or thinking about that, or analyzing it, and it does make me recognize that we live in a time where everything is trying to fight for our attention, right? And attention is becoming a very kind of scarce resource, and a very sharp and focused attention is becoming a rare skill also, right? The ability to just really stay focused and to really pay attention with intention, right, to what matters, to what we decide to pay attention to, is it's becoming increasingly harder. Not that it's impossible, right? And of course, if you look at the mystical traditions or the Eastern traditions, like Oriental traditions, this is what it's all about, right? Like meditation, all these practices to kind of center the mind, focus the mind, and that even how in the Hindu tradition then everything is Maya or an illusion, right? And the idea is to see through it. So I do feel that it matters, and I'm guilty of that myself. I spend a lot of time on this little black screen that we believe it's creating so many opportunities, but really is like there's so many unconscious moments where I just grab it, for whatever reason, because I'm bored, or I'm numbing something, or I'm curious about something, but and I do feel it's unhealthy. So I almost feel this nostalgia for times when we lived without the phone, and this was years ago, of course. Like, I had my first had my first phone when I was 9, I think. So I was, 2003 or something like that. And, it was still a simple phone. Like, there was no internet, and a Nokia or something like that. And then eventually I had a Ericsson, I think it was called, or Sony Ericsson, I can't remember. And this was maybe a bit later, like 2005, 2006. And then eventually the internet came to the phone. And I think, with iPhone kind of catalyzing this revolution of smartphones, which of course existed before iPhone, and that was just crazy. And at some point, it wasn't just browsing, it was all these apps, and of course, all these researchers working at Instagram, Facebook, Meta, other platforms, YouTube, that just began to understand how the human brain works, right? And some of the top cognitive psychologists ended up working there, and basically just, spending weeks just to understand how to make it a little bit more addictive. And that's what they did. And now with AI, the algorithm is even more personalized, right? And now with more video, it's a bit more interactive or more engaging than just reading a text. So compared to like the beginning of smartphones and iPhone and internet, like where we are is just a massive leap in terms of how much this is able to suck us in, right? So, I mean, with that, I don't necessarily know if like the solution is to say, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna live without the phone. In a way, yes, I think that could be really beautiful, and I really respect the people that choose to live without the social media or even without a smartphone. And there's a lot of beauty to that too, where you can be more in the present moment. But at the same time, I mean, I really enjoy a lot of the aspects of this technology, right? Just what I'm able to do with it, whether it's creatively, whether practically, and whether, in terms of communication, but also just kind of staying up to date with what's happening in terms of all these new technological developments. And of course, business-wise, right? I mean, my business is still relying a lot on social media in terms of distribution, in terms of finding clients. And it's kind of, I feel like it's what's the phrase, but like it's the best evil that I could find, or like it's the most bearable, I guess struggle, or, thing that I don't like, that I've sort of accepted for myself, because I definitely prefer this to being in a 9-to-5 in London, in my suit, 8 a.m. In the office, with fluorescent lights, with topics that I don't care about, with people that, I don't share much in common with. So, I definitely choose this, where, great, I have my own online business, the content does work for me, it exists there, people can watch my videos while I sleep, they might sign up to my products, to my services, whatever it is. And of course, like, there's an element of I have to keep going, keep creating more, but I can also enjoy this, right? I can kind of channel and funnel my creativity into it. But it's still a kind of commitment, right? And there's still, then I fall for addiction myself, right? I start getting addicted to my phone or the computer. And I notice myself just spending too many hours on it, and even worse when I'm creating content, because I'm still maybe checking how it's doing, the likes, there's the dopamine, and so it takes a lot of discipline, or again this attention, to sort of bring myself back to not consume too much, to focus on creation, to create, and to use it as a channel to just share my voice and share my thoughts, rather than just be at the mercy of the feed, the algorithm, and the timeline. But in an ideal world, I think, like, if I already had all the money that I needed, then I don't know if I would be on social media. I mean, there's aspects that I enjoy, so it's kind of hard to say. Maybe that's fear of missing out. I'm not 100% sure, but I do feel that on average I give. And of course, that's maybe also my responsibility to some extent, because I choose to be on it and use it, whether consciously or unconsciously, but I feel that I give more than I take from it, or that I receive from it. And it's kind of hard to, of course, quantify or put it, because obviously there's a revenue for business also. But I do feel that on average, for my health, it's more harmful than helpful, right? So, and I've made incredible friends online through all these platforms, and I've met them in person by now, and I've learned so many things, and it's helped me so much with knowledge and information in terms of health and how to live well, like all these things. And yet, I don't know, sometimes it's like a little bit too much, or some platforms are better than others also, you know, let's say like Substack, for instance, or YouTube, on average more, I don't want to say beneficial, but less kind of charging or less heavy than something like X or Instagram can be, right? Because it's such a short attention span. Instagram can be so focused on the vanity. X can be so focused on like the, I don't know, the darker things or the kind of controversial things. And that's present on YouTube. That can also be on Substack. But there is like, I don't know, there's a bit more soul there. There's a bit more depth there to the content. So hence why, you know, I'm also focusing a lot on YouTube, or plan to focus more on it. So yeah, we've covered a lot of ground here, and we've kind of jumped around a bit. Yeah, I'll just share a little bit about like my business, since this is what I'm touching on, right? Like this direction to YouTube. I do feel that I want to prioritize YouTube and Substack, just because content lives longer there, and again, it's less charging for my own nervous system, I feel, and yeah, and it still makes sense. I really feel that building your transpersonal brand is probably one of the, I don't know if one of the most important things. I mean, it depends what you want, but you know, if you want to build a business, and business is, you know, generally more independence and freedom than being in a 9-to-5, then depends, of course, on the kind of business you build, but, you know, distribution matters. Distribution, like in terms of who finds your offers, right? In terms of like, if you create something, how many people can you share it to? Can you tell it to? So, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of ads. SEO I find pretty boring, but content creation can be quite creative, and it's, yeah, in some ways more personal, right? Because you can tell stories and, you know, involve yourself in it, choose your own colors, brands, images, whatever. So for me, that just works, and so I want to prioritize YouTube and Substack because content lives longer there and there's more depth. The third platform after that would probably be Instagram. And then after that, X and Threads. And Instagram excites me because there's more of that creative aspect to it, right? Like, you know, videos and, you know, just using music. And of course you can do that on X, but it's a bit different. It's more text-based still. And yeah, and I'm kind of realizing, I mean, I've done a lot of different offers in the last years, and I realized that I really enjoy creating products. And I've created different products, you know, whether it was prints, so my photography that I was selling. Now it's the 3-hour guidance business, also some kind of lower ticket products like, you know, a mini course or like a sort of like an ebook or a guide. And I've even built a tool that is, you know, with no code tools, but it works in an automated way. Which basically helps people understand their brand DNA or what their brand is about, and, you know, what kind of content to create. And it's fun. And products are fun because they deliver the value themselves, right? So I can create something and then people buy it and then they derive value from it, from the product itself, right? Whereas like with one-to-one, like guidance or coaching or consulting, is like I need to be there to deliver it, Of course, I can train people to do it, but it's not quite the same. And there's still that element of managing people, finding people. But products like is also very creative, right? Like, can create all kinds of products. So I feel that's the direction I'm excited to go in. And I don't know if I necessarily want to create more courses, because courses are great, and you know, from the business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, and people also get a lot of value from it. But somehow I feel that courses will be slowly dying off over time, just because we have AI, and you know, you can now ask AI to teach you stuff, and of course it won't be the same. Maybe like I might miss some specific knowledge. But if you're good at researching, prompting, finding good resources to synthesize also, then you can kind of design your own learning with AI. And I think like also online courses will shift to more personalized learning. So rather than like everybody buys the same course and watches the same videos, at some point, you know, maybe the AI will understand what your needs are, and then it's able to tailor that content or that material to you, or even help you with implementation. So I think that's the direction we're headed in, and that's something I experimented with also. I have an AI guide basically trained on all my knowledge, right, with voice and text, and that's something people got inside the 3-hour guidance business. And yeah, and so for me, I'm really excited to build something that, again, is beautiful. So it has that element of aesthetics, because I do feel good design matters, and I don't know, to me it just feels good. Like when I use apps that have really intuitive and beautiful design, there's something about it, but also something that helps people. So I want to experiment with building an app, and the idea sounds kind of scary at times, because I'm like, okay, do I need to like hire like a developer, a designer, or do I need to like figure it out myself with all this vibe coding, but I still need to learn how everything connects, and yeah, that like I'll just have to spend a lot of hours to even get to like a decent level of quality of my product, because obviously I have like high standards for it. But I'm excited, because I do feel with all these tools that allow you to code and also automate a lot of the workflows, it's only becoming easier and easier. So I'll keep you posted. I definitely talk about creating this app more than I spend time on creating it. And maybe that's just my kind of design. I'm more of a communicator than necessarily builder. But I'm really looking forward to it. But it might be other products. Like I might come back to doing physical prints of photography, other forms of art. It might be physical products that can also be useful, right? Like a journal, for instance, or a set of cards. Kiara, my partner, and I, we had this idea that, you know, sort of like we put on a shelf for now, or sort of on the back burner, but we might come back to. So yeah, and this is what I'm excited to do. And yeah, eventually just do more things in the physical realm, because my business is fully online and I travel and it's great, but I do spend a lot of time on my laptop, and it would be great to also serve people like right where I am. And you know, whether it starts with physical products, whether it's then experiences like retreats, workshops, whether it's even opening a physical space at some point, or growing and making something like, I don't know, food or coffee or wine. We'll see, but I'm definitely excited about the next chapters. And yeah, with that, I feel there's this renewed inspiration to just create. And I think in my business sometimes I might have over obsessed over like the strategy, the tactics. Okay, here's the problems that I observe, here's how I can solve them. And I enjoy that. Like I do have that mindset, but I miss the magic of not knowing what's going to come out of my creation, or just creating for the sake of creating, right? With soul, with intention, as opposed to like, all right, this creation is going to solve this particular problem, which of course is then easier to monetize, as opposed to just something that exists and might just have an aesthetic value, or kind of be pleasant to look at or engage with, like art. But yeah, I'm trying to find that balance again, because, before I built my guidance business, I did kind of spend some time pursuing the path of photography, taking pictures, building a portfolio, applying to competitions, and I won a few things here and there, and I sold some prints, I had some commercial work, but I still got disillusioned that, of course, the photography industry is still in the realm of capitalism, and, there's still their own problems of like, if I do fashion photography, I have to kind of serve the product, right? And might need to give up some of my creativity. If I do art photography and sell my prints, I still need to play the game of perception, brand, who represents me as a gallery, where am I exhibiting, who bought my work, is it kind of trending, what I'm doing, this material. So, of course we assume artists like break all these rules, but not always. Like, I feel artists kind of play also into the rules or the expectations. So, at least most. I think there are just a few like revolutionary artists exceptions, but a lot of them, like, their work isn't even valued until they die or at the end of their life. So it's a bit different. So yeah, with that, I'm really excited. I think for me right now is just taking care of my health also, and also learning to slow down rather than just kind of go all the time. And settling down somewhere, rooting down somewhere, and follow the journey to kind of see where we're going to end up, and building out the business, growing the business, but also with intention to create from the heart, right? And create things that I'm excited to work on, that can ultimately be just beautiful and aesthetic, but also can serve people in many ways. So yeah, I think we covered a lot. And I hope I hit the recording button. So I'm going to check now if I did. So thanks for listening. Let me know if you enjoyed this format, because this is fully unscripted, and I just stream of consciousness, muse on whatever topic is there. And I'm sure that's probably enjoyable for some, maybe for some people less so. But if you're stuck around this far, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your presence. Let me know in the comments what resonated with you, or what other questions came up for you, or anything else you'd like to share. Let's keep this going.